Boo,
What?
we're live.
Oh, yeah, early.
6 minutes early.
Little teacher. You're all sitting there picking your noses.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden,
Sending each other texts that we can't see, talking about us. We know
yeah,
it.
talking about us behind our backs.
Hi, everybody.
We love you.
We do love you.
Sometimes.
So Steph's gone speed skating this morning, so she won't be with us. Typical Steph.
You know, you think if you went speed skating, you'd have it over and done with in time for the show. Otherwise, you're not going very fast.
Exactly. Well, she said that's a bit of a misnomer. Most of the people there really can't skate much at all. So
I'm having issues with screen captures here all of a sudden.
Oh, right. Actually, you mentioned that, Liz, having issues. I was, I was looking at my usual videos that pop up, the new ones on Instagram, and they were recounting the Olympic race with a British skater behind three. They were a mixture of Korean and Japanese skaters, and this is the men's speed skating.
yeah.
And the three little Oriental chaps go belting off from the line,
Right.
and they're jostling and fighting their way around, and this big lanky Brit sort of pottering along at the back, and they do their three orbits, and you
Circuits,
can
yeah.
kind of guess what's going to happen on
Yeah.
the final curve.
Out
All
he
three
comes.
of these guys take each other out,
Yeah.
and this Brit
There he
just
goes.
sails
Love
through
it.
to win. And as he passes the line with this amazed look on his face, I've just won. All you can see are the arms and legs of these Oriental skaters trying to scrabble their way to get to the line.
Hi, Eva. Eva's back today. Yay.
Ah, good afternoon, Eva.
I'm going to leave the studio.
Okay,
here.
and come back in.
Return. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you remember this, Nick, but when the Olympics were in Calgary, which is quite a few years ago, there was an English guy that was doing ski jumping that had basically never ski jumped before.
Oh,
but
we're
he made
talking Eddie the
Eddie the
Eagle.
Eagle, exactly.
Yeah,
He was
infamous
such
here.
a funny guy.
Oh, absolutely. Completely nuts. They made a movie about him.
Oh,
didn't
did they? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Hi, Tanya.
Yeah, I think he was from up north, and
Okay, yeah.
but, I mean, he did enough to qualify.
He did. No,
but-
no. But he was just, I mean, by comparison to
Oh
the
yeah,
Norwegians.
absolutely.
and
He had,
stuff.
absolutely. He was learning on the job, as it were.
It was he and the Jamaican bobsled team that were the two kind of
Cool Runnings.
cool
yes.
runnings. Exactly. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a funny story
Yeah.
as well. But we always love those underdogs who somehow
I do
manage
too.
to.
Eccentric underdogs, I think, are great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us on Saturday morning, everybody. Hope you've got your coffee. And those in the eastern United States, I hope you're warm and cozy because it's chilly here.
Yeah. I'm a bit sad for all these people who've got nothing better to do on their weekends. I mean, come on.
Come on, Nick. Misery loves company. Hi, Ludger. Oh, it's tea time there. Very nice.
Ah.
You're in Germany, right, Ludger? I think yes. I believe he is. So 6, yeah, tea time. That's right. Coming up to 4:00. Masha, haven't seen you for a while. Happy New Year. Yes, Ludger's in Germany. Very good.
Yeah.
So, Nick, where did you go for your talk this week? Where was it at?
Oh, it was back to Brooklands, the
Oh, right. Okay,
museum
yep.
in Weybridge.
Nice.
So they booked me for this one not long after I did the first one, and I made the mistake at the end of the talk of saying, yeah, and of course, if you want to hear about my 3 years flying the Tornado, then you're going to have to invite me back next year. And the guy that runs it was sort of comparing the questions, and handing the mic out. Immediately goes, oh, another one next year? What do we all think about that? And there was a kind of roar of approval.
Okay.
So now I think I've cornered myself into
You're
doing
on
yet
the
another.
hook now. You're on the
Yeah,
hook.
I'm on the hook for another talk. So actually, I've got some funny. I didn't like flying the Tornado, but I've got some funny stories about my time there, including me with
Aaron's
an
off to watch
awful hangover, losing control of tornado going vertically upwards at 10,000 feet
boy.
and nearly blowing the flaps off.
Nick,
And,
how you're still alive, I do not know. I mean, between the barbecue incident and
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I did plenty of things that.
Speaking of which, there's Nigel Demery. He could tell he could tell all your secrets and stories.
Oh, I've got some secret stories about him. I think we've told a few actually, particularly when we both went together in a hawk up from our base
Yes,
to
I remember
Lucas
that.
in Scotland. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
remember that.
when we climbed out, we started filling out the record of the flight just so before we went off and enjoyed a beer with my squadron, and discovered that because the numbers didn't match, we thought we brought the wrong tech log with us. And we realised after a while that no, we had the correct tech log. We bought the wrong aeroplane.
That's interesting.
Well, when you walk outside, there's a line of like
Yeah.
20 or 25 identical aeroplanes.
Yeah.
And we were walking up to
Yeah.
the one we were going to fly, and we were having an argument about who was going to do the walk round
Okay, got it.
and who was going to climb
got a
in
little
and
distracted.
fly it. Yeah, we did, and we decided we were going to split the walk round and do one side each.
Oh,
so
did you see
when-
Nigel's comment? He took the wrong airplane.
I don't think I was the captain. You see, Nigel, Nigel ended up signing for it, so he was the captain.
He was on the
Anyway, we got to the tail of the one we thought was the aeroplane, and we took a side each, and we met at the front, and then climbed in, and off we went. And of course, the the squadron boy, I think it was the deputy squadron commander, a little wrinkly chap.
little wrinkly chap.
Yeah, small, little gnome-like
Imagine
wrinkly
that being your
fella.
description.
Well, he's the one we spoke to on the phone, I think. He
gonna
said,
say.
well, you could have grabbed an unserviceable one. I mean, that's so stupid. How come, you should have checked. And we're going, well, they all look the same.
Well, you know what I think
it
of
worked.
when you say that? It's, that you see videos of guys coming home and they've probably had a few drinks to a row of houses that all look the same and they go in the wrong house. That's what
That's
you
right,
guys
climb
do.
into the wrong bed.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a
that
member
could
of
be
that
good.
club.
You climbed into the wrong
Taking the wrong
plane.
airplane club.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, 727. We flew from Norfolk, Virginia to Atlanta.
Oh, excellent.
Oh.
How on earth
did that happen?
Well, they had a couple of flights early in the morning there, and one to Atlanta, one to Dallas. And we ended up flying the one that was supposed to go to Dallas, but it was fueled just like everything was supposed to be fueled for our flight to Atlanta. They screwed up. They put the wrong tail number there. However, we did not notice that it was the wrong jet.
Did you get into
And-
trouble?
Well, so when we got into Atlanta, the first clue that something was not right was that like some of the cabin cleaner people, they were like in the jetway just outside the front door, and they were going, "Yeah, we weren't expecting you guys here this morning." I'm thinking, "Huh? We fly that flight every single day of the year from Norfolk to Atlanta." I'm thinking that's strange. Why would he say he wasn't expecting us? And then more I started to think about it, I'm thinking, maybe he means this airplane,
That
this
tail
tail number. So
number,
I
yeah.
walked while the passengers are still, getting off
Yeah.
the airplane. I go back in and look at the flight plan, and then I looked at our tail number.
And the penny dropped?
Yeah, and then I said, I took the
love it.
engineer aside and I said, "Hey, we just flew the wrong airplane here," and he goes, "Oh yeah, well it worked fine." I said, "Yeah, I think the FAA kind of frowns on that." And so we said, "Yeah, maybe we should tell the captain." And so we told the captain, and he goes, when we had like an hour and a half break or 2 hour break before we
Right.
were going to go on somewhere else. And he goes, well, "Hey, a friend of mine's the chief pilot. I'll go in there and, I was planning on, saying hi to him anyway. So I'll just mention this just to see if there's any problem."
And you never saw him again?
No, we did. He came back after he came back from the break and we were in the new airplane. He goes, "Hey guys, thank you for insisting that I talk to him about this," because he said apparently it's a really big deal. And oh, by the way, the crew that was supposed to fly to Dallas, did fly to Dallas.
Yeah, in the other plane.
They took our airplane. They didn't notice it either.
Oh, that's actually good for you.
These are the days before ACARs, where nowadays it would be very difficult to like, pull up your information on
Right,
ACARS and
right.
it would say Dallas instead of Atlanta. So you go, oh, we're on the wrong airplane. But back in those days, it was much easier to do. So,
I love
yeah.
it.
So guess what?
So-
I do the same trip every week, and the next trip we're going a very early morning departure, and then we pull up to the gate and I look out the window and they're pushing a 727 back with the tug. And I said, "What's going on?" Oh, they drug up the wrong airplane. They dragged up the wrong airplane. I'm thinking, oh shoot, they were about to do it again. And so about a couple of weeks later, we get this memo that from the chief pilot office that says, or the crew, whatever, that, hey, people, you got to be careful here. You got to make sure you're flying the correct airplane. And anyway, some crew got busted like 2 weeks off, no pay
Oh,
for doing that, what we did a couple of weeks earlier. So I thought, ooh.
Eva's got
Well,
a
you
good
see-
comment here.
I reckon. Very good. Yes, I
Yeah.
reckon if you fess up,
Yeah.
you'll probably get just slap on the wrist. But if you
Right.
try and conceal it, that's probably the end of your job.
I guess more and more people were doing that same kind of thing, and finally they said, we need to say something and make
Right.
an example out of
Right.
somebody.
Exactly. right,
Thankfully, they
yeah.
didn't make
Love
an
it.
example
Right,
out of
yeah.
us. Yeah.
Hi, Micah, and who else came in there? I guess it was just Micah, I guess.
How are the levels?
Yeah, how are the levels? And while
Some-
you're at it, I wonder if Nige is thinking of going to Oshkosh this year, because I think I've been given a pink chit to go to Oshkosh this year.
I think you should.
And we would need to organise some accommodation, Nige.
So, gentlemen, we're going to go for like about an hour and a half-ish today. Max?
Yes.
Well, we've already done half an hour. That means there's any other hour to go.
Well, this wasn't part of the show.
Yeah.
I think you could probably put it in.
As
If we-
interesting as it is. Okay, so let me start the recorder. I don't want to.
Oh, by the way, don't
F that
forget
up.
that the plain tale today is only 10 minutes long. So
Right. That's
Okay.
fine. That's
don't
good.
disappear off for a number two.
Yes,
you
we've
can
got
do
a-
a number
a-
one,
We've
but
got
not
a plain
number two.
taillet. A taillet.
I'll just do 0 numbers,
Okay.
or maybe a 1. I don't know. We'll see, because I've had a couple of cups of coffee. Look at this nice mug.
I know. A quality item there.
That was the. Maybe I need to get some.
Is
of these
that one
made
of the
again.
ones you handcrafted like Steph
No,
had the other?
no.
That was such a funny conversation. Jeff
And I'm
made
being in the old curmudgeon today.
Very nice.
With-
Oshkosh date, yeah, end of July. Do you want the actual days?
It's third week of July every year.
Oh, it's July, is it? Well, that's right in the middle of the bowling season. This might not work.
It may not work.
Ah,
Nick sounds a bit higher than Jeff. Well, it's because of the drugs.
That's because I speak up here. The
Okay,
jeans are a bit tight
I'll
today.
bump up mine a little bit more.
July 22nd to the 28th is Oshkosh.
Hello, hello.
All right.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. It's all that C5 noise. Super Fred driver.
Exactly.
Can't hear a dang thing.
I used to be able to.
Oh, you know what I need to do, Liz? Every
What do you
time
do?
I listen to
Hearing
our
aids.
show, I think about this and then I forget. When we're doing the social medias at the end,
Yes,
we
sir.
need to mention YouTube. I think
Oh,
we don't mention
yeah.
it because we're on it while
That's
we're
true. No,
doing it. But
that's,
YouTube,
yeah.
So,
Interesting.
and we're youtube.com/airline pilot guy.
we should make a little thing. Do you want me to make a little?
I'll make a little thing, a little
Okay.
banner.
You make a little banner.
So let's see. Shall I put it?
I could
right
do
up-
an animated one.
Okay. That's
Wait
fine.
till
any
you
any
see,
of those
folks.
things you want to do is
You
fine with
folks
me,
that are
man.
with us this morning are going to be blown away by the new feature we're rolling out this morning. Blown
no.
away.
We're not doing it this morning.
Oh, we're not? Oh, no, we're not. We're
Oh.
not. That's right. We're not. Oh, next
could-
show.
Next show.
There's a
We
tease.
could do it if you want, just to show.
We could show
everybody.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We're not. Sorry.
Let's see.
Yeah, because we did
Was it
the
20th of January today?
introduction when we did part 1 with Steffi. And Nick Camacho, I should mention, he was there as well.
Burns Night is coming up.
It is.
Yeah, it's only
I love haggis. I really do
5
like
nights.
haggis.
Oh, yeah, I got quite a taste for it in Scotland,
good
but they make
haggis.
it properly up there, you see.
Yeah,
How's that look? YouTube.com/airline pilot.
that looks good.
Cool.
Okay.
You're so talented, Jeff.
Oh, goes without saying.
Hand-make coffee mugs.
Oh, that's
do
good.
banners.
I like that.
That's
a
been in
really
there
good
for quite a
banner.
while. Honestly, we have no, like when you're just like jabbering on about
Yeah,
something.
I put it up every
Yeah,
now and
well,
then.
No
like I
idea.
do. Quite right. Yeah. What can you expect
Jabber, jabber, jabber.
from an old chap?
Jeff.
You know, I
Excellent.
turned 70 this year. Boo.
Oh, go on,
Wow.
you youngster.
I didn't know people still lived to be that old.
Hey, shut up.
Four score and
It's
10
when I
or
listen to the
something.
news here and they talk about there's been like a car accident or something. A car hit an elderly woman of 58 or something. And I said, what are you talking about? 58.
Yeah.
I know. They talk about people in their 40s as being old.
Like,
No, they're
Well,
not.
they-
Those are young people.
Yeah, they breed them tough in Canada.
so I don't need to be on it for the beginning now, right? I can go into the background right away because you guys are going to. Oh no, you're going to do an intro with.
Yeah, you could go and join Hillel in the bathroom.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Love it.
Let's see. Yeah. Don't get too cozy with him.
Yeah, well, he's a bit wet most of the time. So
Yes, Ludger, the recorder is recording in a couple of places over here. And I believe we have our recording on StreamYard as well as our backup. So hey, yeah, we got it. We got it covered this morning. All right.
it's afternoon.
Okay, for all of you who have just joined us, what we're planning on doing, this is part 2, and we're just going to do hour and a half at most, including a plain tale in there. A half
Short.
size.
Plain tale,
Plain
yes.
A tailet. A plain tailet. By the way, plain tales, Tales, like a tale. You're telling
Telling
a
a tale.
not the tail. It's a play on words. A lot of people spell it Tails, like the tail of an airplane. Yeah, it's not Plain. Although, no, I don't think you've ever had a plain tail. It's always been a
No.
plain tail. Yeah. Whatever that means. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, hit your bumper and then, and do the standard introduction for you. I've already
Excellent.
introduced Steph. So you'd be the next, and well, then Nick is going to come with the magic of post editing after Nick Anderson. Right. I'm saying I'll put him after Captain Nick. Okay. I'm not. Let me get to the intro here. Okay. Let's do it. And joining us from his studio in
Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Oh, hi, Jeff, and hi there, Steph. Lovely to be joining you two again. And it's a lovely day here in the UK, except, of course, it's about 0 degrees centigrade. Bruh.
Woo, chilly.
Mm.
Okay. Perfect. Take one.
Cool.
And then we've just played the news bumper, and now we start covering the first item. And let me make sure I have this all queued up. I do. Okay. All right. Well, let's start off with this news item. Everybody's been talking about this for like over a week now, I guess. It happened on the well, almost a couple of weeks ago now. This, of course, is the Alaska Air 737-9 MAX. Yep, MAX is in the news again. They had a little issue with a rapid depressurization or decompression, however you want to call it. And we have some live ATC audio to go along with this incident, so let's take a listen.
Departure Alaska 1282, 2000, climb 7000.
Alaska 1282, calling departure, good evening, rear contact, maintain 15,000.
Climb maintain 15,000, Alaska 1282.
Alaska 1282, contact Seattle Center 128.15, good day.
2815, good day, Alaska 1282. Climbing 15,000.
Alaska 1282, Seattle Center, climb and maintain for level 230.
I maintain 230, Alaska 1282.
Yeah, well, let's go down.
I'm sorry, last aircraft again? Last aircraft, say again?
Center, Alaska, 1282, we're declaring emergency. We're descending down to 10,000. 50 pressurized.
Alaska 1282, roger. Descend and maintain 10,000. And when able, give me the nature of the emergency and your intentions.
Portland, Alaska, or Seattle, Alaska, 1282, we just depressurized. We're declaring emergency. We need to descend down to 10,000.
Alaska 1282, roger. Descend and maintain 10,000, 10,000. And when able, state your nature of emergency and your intentions.
We just depressurized, descend and maintain 10,000, and we need to return back to Portland.
1282, roger. Descend and maintain 10,000. And Portland altimeter
3023, flight pivot heading to Alaska 1282. And Portland, Seattle, Alaska 1282. We need to return back to Portland if we can get one.
Please stand by. I'm going to contact Portland and just let them know your issue. You just have a pressurization problem. So are you going to need any assistance on the ground?
Yes, we need it. We declared an emergency, and we have 177 passengers on board, and we have our fuel is 18,900. Heading in Alaska 1282. Left heading 340, Alaska 1282. All right, 118.1, Alaska 1282. Hey, Portland approach, Alaska 1282, emergency aircraft now leveling 12,000 and a left turn heading 340.
Alaska 1282, calling approach, good afternoon. You still have information Zulu?
Yeah, we do have information zero. We'd like to get lower if possible.
Alaska 1282, descend and maintain 7,000.
Descend and maintain 7,000, Alaska 1282.
Alaska 1282, did you declare an emergency or just need to return to?
Yes, we are emergency. We are depressurized. We do need to return back to. We have 177 passengers. Fuel is 18.8.
Alaska 1282, roger. Alaska 1282, and just say again your fuel and passengers on board.
Our fuel is 18,900 pounds, and we have 177 passengers on board.
Alaska 1282, roger. And do you need time to burn off some fuel before you land?
Negative.
Alaska 1282, so you're ready for the approach now? Is 28 left okay?
We need about 10 minutes for Alaska 1282.
Alaska 1282, roger. Just let me know when you're ready.
We'll let you know, Alaska 1282.
Alaska 1282, can I just box you around in that area until you're ready to go in? Alaska 1282, can I just back you in a box pattern in that area, or do you want to stay on a heading for a longer period of time?
We can take if we can take a couple delay vectors, we're going to get set up for the approach
Last 1282, sounds good. Turn left heading 280. I'll just box it around in this area here.
All right, 280 on the heading, thanks, Alaska 1282.
And Alaska 1282, sorry to bother you again. Are you okay at 7 or do you want lower?
And Portland, Alaska 1282, we are ready for the approach and we'd like to do the approach.
Alaska 1282, can you get down from there or you want to give you a box around to get down?
We can get down, Alaska 1282.
Alaska 1282, no problem if I clear you from there. It looks like you're on a localizer.
Even though I didn't tell you to intercept it.
Clear for the approach, Alaska 1282.
Alaska 1282, you're over Hitster, cleared ILS 23 left approach.
Cleared ILS 28 left approach, Alaska 1282.
Alaska 1282, I just want to verify no problems making descent. We could bounce you back around for another approach if you like.
I think we got it, Alaska 1282. Thank you.
Alaska 1282, no problem. Contact tower 123.77. Now, guys.
2377, good night, 1282. Portland Tower 1282, we're on the ILS 3 left emergency aircraft.
Alaska 1282, Portland Tower, wind 160 at 11, runway 28 left, clear connect.
Settle in at runway 28 left, Alaska 1282.
And they were happily ever after. What's the saying? They lived happily ever after.
Well, some of them did anyway. Some of them were quite grumpy and taking people to court.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, I guess I should mention that right now. I've talked already about the incident, the water feature inside my kitchen area of my apartment, and
Yep.
the whole issue regarding that, and the folks that came into the company that came in to do the demolition, and then I guess it's going to be the same company that's going to do the repair work and replace the ceiling and all that kind of stuff. They were looking over here at this part of where I'm sitting in front of right now. I'm back in the apartment, and looking at all the electronic equipment and the speakers and the lighting and everything else. And they said, do you do a podcast or YouTube or something like that? And I said, I explained to them what we do. And she said, what kind of podcast? And I said, aviation podcast. She goes, what do you know about the Alaska, thing? And I said, well, just what basically the reports that we get in the news. I guess, it's funny. People think, Nick, that we have some kind of a special back door,
Oh yeah,
access to
the famous
information
back channel. Yes.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that carries on into retirement as well.
I guess so.
It's permanent. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Anyway, she goes, well, my brother and his family were on that flight, like 5 rows in front of that mid-cabin exit door plug that blew. And I went, what? Are you kidding me? And she said, yeah. In fact, one of the iPhones that got, or cellular phones, I'm not sure it was an iPhone or not. I think it was an iPhone. In fact, I think it's the one that survived the fall from 16,000 feet down to the ground and was still working just fine, was his phone. And I think that he said that, or she said that he said that his kids' shoes had been taken off, but they got sucked out. And luckily the kids are still with them. And so it was like a big explosion, and then all of a sudden just chaos in there. And I said, could I interview him? And she said, well, he's going to be a part of this class action suit against Alaska Air and Boeing and Spirit. And I went, oh, okay, so he's probably not going to be able to talk to me, but yeah. So
yeah, that's a shame. That would have been quite a fait accompli if you managed to interview one of the passengers. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been pretty nifty. Yeah. Anyway, so they're taking off. They're heading from Portland, Oregon to Ontario, California. And then going through about just shy of 15,000 feet, I believe, in their climb is when the PSID, or the cabin pressure, went from 14, a little over 14 psi to a little over 9, indicating a loss of pressurization. And they ended up, the apogee, I guess, of their climb was about 16,300 before they started going back down. And then we just heard that conversation with air traffic control and the coordination, getting them down to the airport and runway. And of course, at this point, the pilots have no idea what's going on, other than there's some kind of a big hole in the fuselage, which is true. Let's see. Let me read a little bit from the Aviation Herald. On January 8th, 2024, the NTSB reported in their last media briefing on site that according to the flight data recorder, the aircraft was climbing through 14,830 at 271 knots when the cabin pressure reduced from 14.09 to 11.64, and the cabin altitude 10,000 foot warning activated. Second later, the master caution activated and the cabin pressure fell to 9.08 psi at about 14,850 MSL, which would probably be about the right pounds per square inch at that altitude. So at this point, they're pretty much depressurized. 18 seconds later, the master caution deactivated. The aircraft stopped the climb at 16,320. About 82 seconds after, the pressure fell to 9.08 psi at 276 knots indicated. The selected altitude changed from 23,000, or flight level 230, to 10,000 feet. The aircraft began a left turn. The aircraft descended through 10, about 5.5 minutes after the pressure dropped. The cabin altitude warning ceased when the cabin pressure increased to 10.48, and the aircraft returned to Portland to landing on runway 28 left. No one amongst the crew knew that the cockpit door was so the cockpit door, this is one of those things that I don't know if you were scratching your head about this one, Nick, or not, but I certainly was, because since 9/11, we've had these reinforced doors installed, terrorist-proof doors, I guess. And these doors, I don't know what your Airbus door was like, but our doors have these blowout panels. They told us that the reason for these blowout panels is that you have a rapid decompression and you want to equalize the pressure between the cockpit and the cabin. And so in this case, the 737-9 MAX door flew open, and Boeing and all the officials seemed to think well, that's what it's supposed to do. And all of us pilots are going, huh? Well, no one told us that the door is going to come flying open in a rapid
Yeah, the same would have happened on my cockpit, because the whole bottom half of the door has got a big reinforced hatch, which is supposed to open in the event of a decompression to equalize pressure. So I would have expected that to blow out, not the entire door to bang open.
I'm wondering if it's one of these situations where that's really what's supposed to happen, but they're going to go, okay, we'll just say that that's the way it was designed, and we're gonna go ahead and put it in the manuals.
Yes.
I'm still not convinced that this is really the way these darn things are designed. But anyway, that was one of those things that really kind of got my attention. I went, say what? Let me read that again. Anyway,
I just assumed they didn't adopt the panel, the blowout panel design. I just, when I read that, I just assumed that they've designed the door to be blowable open, but that kind of defeats the object of having a really secure door. If you just with a big pull, you can get it open.
Yeah, exactly. So I look forward to hearing more about this feature. So again, in the narrative, Boeing is going to make changes to the manuals regarding this cockpit door designed to open in case of a rapid decompression. Okay. All passenger oxygen masks deployed as designed, but a number were later stowed back into their compartments. When the auto pressurization light came on January 3rd and January 4th, okay, so before this incident, a couple of days before, there were a couple of write-ups and a couple of instances where the crews of those flights received an auto pressurization light coming on. They did not need to go into manual pressurization mode. They just switched the cabin pressure controller. And that happens. That's happened to me several times in my career where
I was
you look
going to
up and
ask you if you think that's related.
I don't think so. I think it just happens to be coincidental myself.
Yeah,
But is
that's
that
what
you
I
think?
would have said, because we're talking a structural component of the fuselage and the pressurization controller fault or fault with that, and they're really not related. They are kind of, because obviously you get a hole in your fuselage, it's going to affect your pressurization, but it wouldn't bring up a warning of that requires a reset or a recycle of the pressurization controllers. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like one of those things, like it's just throwing everybody off a little bit because it has something to do with pressurization.
Yeah,
And this was a depressurization. They did find the door, Liz. Well, the door was in these trees that you're showing a picture of right now. I don't know. Is she leading the witness, Nick?
Yeah, I think she might be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd put your wig on and tell her to hush up.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Oh,
Let's
it fell
continue
out the tree.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. It's on the ground. Looks like it's intact. School teacher and his students were a hit at school today when they discovered the door plug. The school teacher's name is Bob. Did you say? Okay. Let's see. The NTSB is particularly looking at the bottom hinge fitting and large spring there. A plastic window frame as well as a headset was also found. The right-hand door plug was found entirely without discrepancies. The door plug, no door installed, is put into place using 12 stop pads. 4 bolts would then be engaged to keep the door plug in place. However, the plug translated upwards, disengaging all 12 of those stop bars. The 4 bolts have not been found, and as far as I know, they still haven't been found. There is no information whether they were present or not yet. This is going to be the subject of examination at the labs.
Yeah,
then
I must admit, I find it a bit confusing when they call them plug-type doors, because in that you imagine that the whole side of the door fits into a hole like a cork in a bottle, and you can't push it all the way through. It literally plugs in.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, in reality, of course, it's not like that at all. They've got some protuberances on the fuselage and matching ones on the door. And if you line them up, then the door can't go through the hole. But if you move that door up or down a bit until those are no longer lined up, then there's not much to stop it from going straight through. So that's the situation they're in, and those bolts, their purpose was to make sure that the guides, the locations of these metal plugs remained matched up, so that the door physically couldn't move. But it worries me a bit, because what would make that door go up and down? Well, a bit of a hard landing, bit of a jolt, bit of turbulence, and if the bolts that maintain it in the correct position aren't fitted or are loose, then this is what could happen. Terrifying, really.
It is. It is. Liz was showing us a pic of the door, and she's about to show us again. Yeah, so just 6 points on either side of the door opening there is where those stops are. 12 stops complete, and then just 2 bolts, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom in those hinge springs. And again, they're not sure if the bolts were actually there or they were broken or what. They're still looking for the bolts, I guess, to see. And maybe they'll be able to tell based on the bolt holes, whether there was something in there or not.
Yeah, hopefully there are some witness marks on the stop pads on the door and the fuselage to indicate that it had been dragged, moved under pressure or whatever. So hopefully they'll have some idea. But yeah, it's I hope to heavens they discovered that it was just a fault in the type of metal used in the bolt or something. But my gut tells me that this is probably an assembly problem.
Well, the good thing is that there were no other airplanes with this problem at all after they did. Oh, wait, hang on. No. On the 9th of January, Alaska reported a number of their B-39M aircraft showed loose parts during the inspections following the door plug separation. And then some other airlines also checked their 737 MAX 9s, and they also found some loose
Yeah,
bolts
so
and
it
door
sounds like
fittings.
they might have a quality control issue at the manufacturer, which is a subcontractor to Boeing. Spirit Aviation's Aero
Yeah, Spirit's
Systems,
Aero
thanks,
Systems, yeah.
Liz. But you know, they're the ones that Boeing entrusted to do this job, and you know, so that and Boeing has its name on the side of the airplane, so I think they're going to take the carry the can for this one. Interestingly, it's probably worth explaining what this plug did, because it's basically a semi-permanent part of the fuselage. It's not designed to be used as a door at all. The aircraft has the capability of taking more passengers than this one was configured for. And when you exceed a certain number, it's usually fit about 50 passengers per emergency exit. When you exceed a certain number, you've got to have more emergency exits to ensure that people can get off in a hurry. And because they had limited the number of passengers that were going to be in this airframe, they didn't need those extra emergency exits. So they were effectively semi-permanently sealed. That was supposed to be. It was a seal that was put in, a plug that was put in at manufacture. And then the furniture, the inside covering of the fuselage was put over the top of it, and it wasn't really properly accessible for maintenance or checking, because it was now considered, like part of the fuselage.
Yeah. So, as you just mentioned, the reason for this mid-cabin exit is because of the requirements from regulators of having a certain number of exits per passengers. Now, no one that operates the MAX 9 here in the United States is configured to that over 200 passenger or at 200 and more passenger level. So not the high density setup, but the lower density seating. So all the operators here in the US are using the door plug, not the actual door itself. But some carriers, including Indonesian's Lion Air and Corendon Dutch Airlines, cram more than 200 seats in their MAX 9, so they must have extra emergency exits. So that's the reason for the variability, I guess. And then Micah made a good point here earlier on. The question he has is they use the same exact plug in the 737-900, yet there's no AD and they are not requiring inspections on that aircraft. So that is interesting. And at first I
those
thought, well,
fuselages made at the same manufacturer, same
Yes.
contract. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, in that case, you do wonder why not.
yeah. Anyway, so maybe it's some kind of a new process that has been implemented and is faulty. This new process, whether it be installation, whether it be QC or whatever it is, something failed. And the Funyuns
Yeah,
definitely
they
lined
definitely
up.
lined up, didn't they?
They did.
Yep.
Let's see, what else was I going to mention about this? Yeah, the flight's grounded until they figure out what's going on and what the cause of this incident is, and all the other airplanes that have these loose fittings on their plug. So, it's not good to have loose nuts, for sure. Although the nuts I don't think are a problem in this case. Okay, let's go to number 2. That's what this show is, part 2. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Now, Liz, how long have we been holding this story before I know it was before this door plug blowout thing. Couple of weeks? Okay, so we actually had this in our news lineup. And then, of course, the door plug blew out in the incident that we just talked about. Well, this is from SeattleTimes.com. Let's see. Little noticed, the Federal Aviation Administration in December published a Boeing request for an exemption from key safety standards on the 737 MAX 7, the still uncertified smallest member of Boeing's newest jet family. So they were petitioning the FAA for an exemption from key safety standards. Since August, earlier models of the MAX currently flying passengers in the U.S. have had to limit use of the jet's engine anti-ice system after Boeing discovered a defect in the system with potentially catastrophic consequences. The flaw could cause the inlet at the front end of the pod surrounding the engine, known as a nacelle, to break and fall off. In an August airworthiness directive, the FAA stated that debris from such a breakup could penetrate the fuselage, putting passengers seated at windows behind the wings in danger, and could damage the wing or tail of the plane, which could result in loss of control of the airplane. Remember the Southwest 7-3 that had the uncontained engine failure and killed that lady sitting there at the window?
Absolutely.
Dennis Tager, spokesperson for the Allied Pilots Association, the APA, the union representing 15,000 American Airlines pilots, said the flaw in the engine anti-ice system has given us great concern. He said the pilot procedure the FAA approved as an interim solution, urging pilots to make sure they turn off the system when icing conditions dissipate to avoid overheating that within 5 minutes could seriously damage the structure of the nacelle, is inadequate given the serious potential danger. No kidding. I mean, I don't know how many times now your fleet that you flew, Captain Nick, probably had like an automated system, right? That would just
No, it didn't. We
didn't?
manually selected engine anti-ice.
Oh.
Yeah.
So as well as I do. Of course, I'm sure you never did it, but you would sometimes turn the anti-ice on. We're flying through some high Cirrus or whatever. And we'll and then we'll forget that we have the anti-ice on, and then like half an hour later or whatever, you go, oh yeah. We're in the clear, and we have been for the last 20 minutes. I guess we can turn that off now. 5 minutes is nothing. Nothing.
No, exactly right. Now that was, I can imagine people going, well, you're the very well trained pilots. How on earth do you not know that you've got the anti-ice system on and that it's time to turn it off? Well, the answer is you've got a lot of things to do, and you tend to prioritize things. And banging the anti-ice on, yeah, I've done that now. Tick that box, and now you've got some radio calls, and you've got a position report to make, and you've got someone comes in the flight deck to ask a question, or you
delivering
might have a
your 4-course meal.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say you might have a medical emergency on board, that someone just said, we've had a woman faint in the back, and all these things can happen. And now your attention is diverted for a while. 5 minutes, you're quite right, is absolutely nothing. Eventually you'll get round to doing a scan of the flight deck, and you'll go, oh, damn, look, the anti-ice is still on. Let's kill that. We've been out of icing for a little while now. It's very easy to do. Luckily, the Airbus used to give us a warning when it detected we were in ice. And if we left the anti-ice on and the ice was no longer detected, it would eventually come up with a warning saying something like, no ice detected or something. And that would give you the reminder that it was okay to turn it off. Yeah, but no, you've just got to try and remember. And the fact that you've only got 5 minutes before you start damaging the engine nacelles, I think it is worrisome. That is really worrisome.
Well, they say that it's just a very small chance that could happen. But any chance at all is too much of a chance.
Well, exactly. And to me, it does seem a fairly simple thing to put a warning that comes up if you've left it on for too late or for too long, or just a reminder, the anti-ice is still on, did you know? Or, you're right, tie it to an automated system. So when your ice detectors say there's no ice, it turns off the engine anti-ice for you. You go, okay.
Or fix whatever it is that's causing the thing to overheat and burn, make the nacelle blow up.
That's much too hard. Yeah, exactly right. No, that is a worry.
Yeah.
It's interesting because all the military airplanes I flew, none of them you had an anti-ice system turn on or off. I'm pretty sure they all just ran constantly all the time because they're military jets and no one gives two hoots. They're tough as old boots, and you don't worry too much about fuel consumption when 5 seconds in reheat, that negated any attempts to save fuel by turning the anti-ice off. It wasn't until I came to Civvy Street that I have to start worrying about these things. And of course, there's the question of, it's never a clear-cut thing when you're in or out of icing conditions, because it could be very patchy cloud. You could be in and out and in and out. You could be drifting through the tops. The temperature just could go up or down a degree, and you'd be really worried turning these things off and on and off, on and off. Terrible.
Yeah. You can speak. Okay. We are getting some back channel communications.
Some back chatter.
Yeah. So we're going to move to this item D from foxbusiness.com. This was sent to us from the Sultan of Wings. I don't know if he's here with us today, Brad in Charlotte. Let's see. Former Delta first officer who, first of all, I have to say, this article written by somebody at Fox Business News, who I believe got this from the AP, the Associated Press. I'm not sure who is at fault here, but they don't quite understand the difference between a co-pilot and a captain. And so they think that you have two pilots in the cockpit, so they're co-pilots. So technically speaking, yes.
Because they cohabit the flight
Exactly.
deck.
So we're not, like Nick and I are co-hosts, and we have other co-hosts that aren't here with us on part 2, but it's not the same thing. Co-pilot. Anyway, so I had to make you see all these little brackets, Nick, in this whole article.
I did wonder where they came from.
Yeah, that's me going like, no, that's not right. You don't understand, the roles of the two pilots that are in this airplane, apparently. Anyway, I'm going to read it, hopefully corrected. A former Delta first officer who allegedly threatened to shoot his captain midair claims misunderstanding. I mean, the article read at first, a former Delta pilot threatened to shoot his co-pilot midair claims misunderstanding. I'm thinking, wait a minute. I thought it was the co-pilot that had the gun threatening the captain. And then I finally realized that the person writing this doesn't get it. Okay. Lawyers for the former pilot, Jonathan Dunn, 42 years old, called it a misunderstanding, while prosecutors described the allegations as a grave offense. Former Delta pilot Jonathan Dunn's threat to shoot his captain while the plane was in the air was a misunderstanding, but prosecutors described the heated argument during a 2022 flight from Atlanta to Salt Lake City as a grave offense. The two sides sparred in a Utah courtroom Thursday. This was a couple of weeks ago, I think, during Dunn's first federal court appearance since his October 2023 indictment for threatening his captain after he suggested diverting the flight for a passenger's medical emergency. Dunn allegedly responded with a slew of menacing remarks, and the unnamed co-pilot, captain, thought Dunn would use his gun to relieve him of command of the aircraft. Prior to this incident, the TSA authorized Dunn to carry a gun on board, part of the Federal Flight Deck Officer Program, FFDO program here in the U.S. The midair altercation also cost Dunn his job with Delta, which said he is no longer with the airline after a grand jury indicted him on a federal charge of interfering with a flight crew. He could face up to 20 years in prison. The trial date has tentatively set for March 20th. Dunn admitted to making remarks, but said they were intended as a joke, according to a report by the AP. The former pilot's lawyer, John Huber, said after the court appearance his client doesn't have a criminal history and shouldn't be considered dangerous. With that said, Dunn said to seem to recognize, this is the paragraph that I think is pretty interesting. With that said, Dunn seemed to recognize in hindsight the gravity of his actions, telling Delta officials Quote, "This could have been much worse. In hindsight, if I had been threatened, I would not be able to operate." So he's basically just making the case, I think, for the prosecution against him by that statement right there.
Interesting.
It could have been much worse. And he too would have been not able to operate if he had been threatened, as he had threatened the captain. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so interesting. They also go on to talk about Dunn is also an Air Force Reserve, or was, I guess, Air Force Reserve Lieutenant Colonel, who was demoted from his previous position for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. And actually, it wasn't, he was brought up for not wanting to take the vaccine, but his demotion was another matter that involved his leadership or lack of leadership or something else. So a lot of conflation here in this article, and a lot of confusion regarding roles of pilots and co-pilots and captains and first officers and all that kind of stuff. But there you go. Otherwise, very well written. Thank you. Oh, let's see. Marin says, if there's a first officer, is there a last officer? Yeah, I think that he fills the bill
yeah,
for that.
there certainly is. Yeah.
Oh, he's done for, according to Nigel.
Yeah.
Oh, that deserves a rim shot, right? Yeah, here we go.
It's awful. No, don't encourage him.
Too late. All right, what are you saying we do next? Jay, okay. Okay. So you remember the Siberian or the Russian
the boy that diverted with his gear down, not realizing that he would use so much fuel he couldn't make his destination.
Because they didn't know that the gear was down, apparently.
Yeah, because he hadn't worked out that the gear was still down, so he landed it in a field.
Landed in a Siberian field in September of last year.
Yeah, we thought it was a soy field, didn't we?
No, that was a different incident.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Soviet. Oh, gosh. All right.
Lord preserve me.
Yeah. Anyway, so we were thinking, I think that they said at first that they were going to do whatever they needed to do to get the thing ready to just take off from that field and fly it back. And apparently they have made the decision to scrap the airplane and just dismantle it for parts. Yeah, the Ural Airlines has been forced to pay the owner of the field a year's worth of rent while it dismantles the aircraft in the remote Siberian wilderness. And we think probably has something to do with the fact the war between Russia and Ukraine and the lack of parts, for these airliners is probably part of the problem here. If they could get these parts, they would probably do whatever they needed to do to fly the thing out of there. But I guess they decided,
it would have been good for publicity. I'd have loved watching the video.
Me too.
Yeah.
That'd have been cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I guess it's time for us to get caught up with Nick, right? All right, let's do this. I got something to say too then. Okay, but that's still the getting to know us segment, right? Okay, well, remind me just in case I forget. Again. Yeah, hey, we've already gotten caught up with Steph and Nick Camacho. Nick Anderson, Captain Nick, wasn't with us at the time, but he's here now in part 2. And so now we're going to hear from you, sir. What have you been up to? Still doing the bowling?
Yeah, I had a disastrous game. Absolutely awful. Playing for the county the other day. I couldn't do a thing right. So I'm trying to blank that from my
I'm sorry, I mentioned
memory. Yeah, trying not to talk about it. But otherwise, apart from that one game, things came fine. I gave a talk to the Royal Aeronautical Society last night. This is the branch at Weybridge. I've mentioned them a few times. And it was held at the Brooklands Museum. They have a lovely meal beforehand, and they've got a bar there so you can have a few beers. It's a very comfortable sort of entertainment area that the museum have, that the people in the Royal Aeronautical Society also use. Anyway, they're very friendly, great fun, talking about my time in the Hornet's Nest, basically flying the Hornet in Australia. So that is my number 2 talk. And I made the mistake at the end of saying, well, if you really get bored, I could always knock up a talk about the Tornado, which was my final 3 years in the Air Force flying that, and they grabbed it at the chance for that. So I'm probably going to have to knock another talk up now and chit chat about yes, have a nice dinner with them and have a chit chat about that. But anyway,
chit chat about your favorite jet.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be a little rude about it. I wasn't very rude about the Hornet at all, because there was very little wrong with it. It was wonderful.
I go back to that first slide, Liz. I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. I've always suspected that Nick is maybe a robot. And look at this. You see on his chest there, it's the
all the go buttons,
the play button.
Oh yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's actually the book that was presented to me by the Hawker Association when I gave a talk to them. And the Hawker chap was there at this and wanted a picture of me with the book, so he could put it in their magazine. So that was that. And last night, I had my birthday treat. Now, my birthday is on September the 9th. So, as you can imagine, this treat is a little delayed. Yeah. But she who shall always be obeyed booked a very nice restaurant in Chichester, a town only half an hour away down by the coast. And we had a lovely meal. I had crispy pork belly on a bed of mashed potato, etc., and cheese board and all. It was very pleasant. Anyway, we went up to the Festival Theatre and listened to Fisherman's Friends. Now, in the UK, they started off just as a little bunch of guys who sang together in the lovely coastal town in Cornwall of Port Isaacs. And they started producing records. They were recognised. They've made 2 films about them, 2 cinema feature-length films. And they're really quite famous now, certainly in our neck of the woods. And the only reason I thought it'd be worth mentioning is that they never even referred to it, but behind them were 3 flags. And, of course, the middle one is black background, white cross. It's the flag of Cornwall. Okay, it's not like Wales or Scotland. It's not an independent country. It's definitely part of England, but they also like to maintain their individuality, so they have themselves a flag. But beside it are 2 naval flags that you'd hang off your signal pole or whatever you have on a boat, where you hang signal flags. And I was scratching my head, and I was sitting beside a very nice chap from a retired army officer. And I said to him, yeah, I suppose you know what those flags are. He says, yeah, I've been asking folks around, and someone's worked it out. The one on the left means I'm on fire, and the one on the right means I need medical assistance, which I thought was rather an amusing thing to sneak up in front of the audience. So that was great. I enjoyed that. They sing sea shanties and all sorts of stuff. So it was a really nice concert to listen to. That was good. That's been my week, really. Nothing much else.
Oh yeah, let's talk about last week's cover art.
Oh golly, yes, there was a lot in this one. We had so many suggestions to this. It started off with the French unions going on strike. So that resolved itself into a bowl of French union soup. Mm-hmm. And someone was talking about escargot, snails, because of course the French were famous for finding ways of eating those palatably. And I really actually quite like garlic snails. But anyway, so I chucked some snails in it, and then someone said, "Oh, that escargot, let's escargot around." And
You can always escargot around.
Yeah, exactly right. You can always escargot around. Brilliant. And then I'm trying to remember who this was. Someone like I haul boxes. Yeah. And then came up the suggestion, eclair an emergency. So we've got a chocolate eclair up there with I eclair emergency. And of course, because a lot of the stories were concerning NOTAMs, we had to have NOTAMs are a bunch of crepe.
Crap.
So there you go.
Crap.
And the title came out as Snailed It. The show number was Hidden in the Crepe. If you look carefully, you've got some little holes in the batter that make 601. And that was just looked like a 0, so that was good. And we managed to sneak the APG image in. We engraved it on the end of the spoon.
Mm-hmm.
Liz, have you put that one up already?
I thought we...
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't do that? Oh.
Yeah, come on, Liz, get a grip.
Okay, well, you're going to need to do this. Add this to the stage so we can see it. There we go.
There we go. There it
There's
is, on the end of the...
logo there on the end of the... Yeah.
What did Nige say? We Boeing types used to call the Airbus an escargot because it flies so slowly. An escargot.
Oh, because it's a snail, and snails are slow.
Okay.
We have to explain things to Nick.
Yeah, well, Nigel certainly does. He speaks a different language. Yeah. So that was a bit of fun. And I must thank, I don't need to thank Midjourney because we pay for the service, but they did a pretty good job actually of making an image of French onion soup. I thought that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, Liz was trying to make something out of the onions and the Union soup. But I don't know. I just happened to glance right at the number. I went, oh, that was easy. Yeah. So let's see. Oh, just an update. So part one, I was down in Tampa at the RV Super Show, and I'd gone down, about this time or more than a week ago is when I had this indoor water feature thing going on, the flooding of my apartment, and they had to come in and rip out the ceiling. And so I'm thinking, well, this is perfect. They're supposed to come in on Monday and start, making the repairs and making it brand new. And when I come back, it's all going to be done, all finished. No, it's in fact, when I was down there, I have a little camera here, like a little security camera, and I could clearly see that there was still a big hole in the ceiling and exposed rafters and everything else. And so finally, and I also got this little notification from the management here at the apartment complex that, like, basically was a follow-up. Okay, your maintenance work order is complete, and give us some feedback on it. And I'm thinking, it's not complete. So I finally called them and said, so just wondering what's happening here. I think there's a miscommunication because they're finished. And I said, well, no, there's still a big hole in the ceiling, and there's still all this equipment in here, and it's still a mess with drywall dust all over everything. Huh? There is? So anyway, they're going to come back in on Monday, I guess, to kind of finish everything off. So that's your update on my water feature issue here in the
yeah, I know. Did they put a water slide in for you so you can get to, or perhaps for Hillel so he can, and that was the other question, who left the water on? Was it Hillel that did that? Because I had my suspicions.
I didn't even think about that. I bet that was the problem. Although it was in somebody else's apartment, but I wouldn't put it past him to like be in other people's restrooms,
Well,
bathrooms as well.
exactly right. He must get a bit bored with yours, so he
Yeah.
probably wants to move around a bit.
It's just exploring. And then the thing I mentioned in part one that we were going to, we had a bone to pick with iHaul boxes. I don't believe he was able to be with us on the last or the part one, so we thought, we'll just do it for part two. And unfortunately, oh, that's right. He dropped in and he wasn't able, it was like just a quick check in and a check out, got to go. So he wasn't there long enough for me to mention the fact that a little birdie informed us that on January 11th, it was his birthday. iHaul Boxes had a birthday on January 11th. And this person,
What is he,
anonymously,
16 now?
belated happy birthday. Thank you for being a member of the APG community and especially for your participation in the live chat room. You make us think and laugh. Hope you had a great day. So
Very nice. Very
yeah,
nice.
yay.
Yes. Is he,
Yeah.
does this birthday mean he's grown up at last?
Well, maybe physically, but that's all we can say about that. Speaking of Hillel, I think did we do the feedback from Hillel? I don't remember it either, but I don't see it either. Was that from? Oh, he did that feedback from the previous show. Never mind. I never removed that. No, I think you're thinking of Pip. So this
Pip's
Hillel
bad quality. Yeah, he always
Hillel-
has been.
In 601 we did play it. I just forgot to erase it from the getting to know us note. So never mind. Yeah, we can do the plain tale now. Okay. Are you ready, Liz, for the plain tale? Sure. Okay, well, then I'll go ahead and say, you know what? This would be a darn good time for a plain tale. What do you think? The old pilot has done something here called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. That's an unusual title.
The old pilot's plain tales. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. The year is 1957 and the space race is underway. The major powers around the world, mainly the Soviet Union and the United States, are all striving to develop the technology that will allow them to reach outer space. The Soviet Union's Academy of Sciences' prime aim was to beat the Americans into Earth orbit, and their top-secret Sputnik project was about to reward all the efforts put in by a generation of scientists and engineers. Sputnik 1 was soon to be placed atop an R-7 rocket and launched into a low orbit to become the first artificial Earth satellite. The R-7 had already flown and become the world's first intercontinental ballistic missile, but on the 4th of October 1957, the national pride and kudos that would rain down on the Soviet Union following their technical marvel would be immeasurable. But what if they hadn't been the first? How might the tensions of the Cold War been eased had someone else achieved this milestone? It actually might have happened a couple of months earlier, on the 26th of July. It was part of Operation Plum Bob, a series of 29 nuclear explosions meant to study various aspects of this weapon. American scientists blew up and irradiated several hundred pigs involved in the rigors of a nuclear battlefield and exposed a number of Air Force officers and a photographer to the effects of a nuclear air-to-air missile. Bombs were carried aloft by balloons and then detonated, whilst some were aimed at simulating the effects of an explosion following an aircraft crash. Pascal A, a low-wheeled device, was the first underground test ever conducted, and it was placed into a 500-foot uncapped shaft in the Nevada test site. About halfway down the shaft, there was a 2-ton concrete plug, 5 feet thick, with a hole in the middle for one of many sensors that would measure the effects of the explosion to look through. These were still early days of nuclear weapon development, so when ignited, the blast yield was considerably higher by a factor of a mere 50,000 than expected, and a jet of fiery blue plasma was ejected several hundred feet into the air. It was described by observers as
the biggest damn Roman candle you ever saw. It was beautiful. Big blue glow in the sky.
The 2-ton concrete plug was completely vaporized. The second underground test, Pascal B, originally named Galileo B, was lowered into a similar borehole, 3 feet wide and 485 feet, 148 meters deep. This time the concrete plug was placed only a few feet above the bomb, and the top of the hole was capped with a circular slab of 4-inch thick armor that weighed a couple of 1,000 pounds, around a metric ton, and which was welded into position. When all was prepared, the countdown commenced.
5, 4, 3,
And the recorders were started,
2, 1, 0.
including a high-speed camera that was aimed at the top of the shaft and was running at 1 frame every millisecond. In the depths of the borehole, a flash more than 1,000,000 times brighter than the sun went almost unobserved, apart from the momentary readings from the sensors around the bomb before they were obliterated, and the shaft of superheated flame that escaped from the top. The special cameras were whirring at their frantic speed, eating up miles of film in seconds, and in the aftermath, the photographic specialists pored over the results. There, captured on a single frame, was an image of a large circular manhole cover, rocketing upwards so fast that a millisecond later it was already out of sight. Many years later, Dr. Robert Brownlee, the astrophysicist who designed the test in question, was interviewed about what happened.
What time does the shock arrive at the top of the pipe? 31 milliseconds. And what happens? The shock reflects back down the hole, but the pressures and temperatures are such that the welded cap is bound to come off the hole. How fast does it go? My calculations are irrelevant on this point. They are only valid in speaking of the shock reflection. How fast did it go? Those numbers are meaningless. I only have a vacuum above the cap, no air, no gravity, no real material strengths in the iron cap. Effectively, the cap is just loose, traveling through meaningless space. And how fast is it going? 6 times the escape velocity from the Earth.
A few years after Robert Brownlee's recollections of his time working in the Nevada desert, NASA launched the New Horizons interplanetary space probe on its decades-long mission to fly by Jupiter, Pluto, and then the Kuiper Belt object, Arrokoth. Launched atop a massive Atlas V, it was fired directly into an Earth and solar escape trajectory with a speed of 58,500 kilometers per hour, or 36,400 miles per hour, which is 10.1 miles every second, and hailed as the fastest human-made object to have ever been launched from planet Earth. Not so fast there, everyone who knows of Brownlee's flying manhole cover said. The calculations that were made at the time and verified in recent years put the speed of the Pascal B borehole cap at a conservative 200,000 kilometers per hour or 125,000 miles per hour, about 35 miles per second, dwarfing the efforts made by the New Horizons probe. Whether or not the cap actually made it into space is still a topic of debate. No trace of it was ever found, and some believe that it could have been vaporized in the same manner as a meteorite burning up on entry into the Earth's atmosphere, but in reverse. Others theorize that the object may have survived its unconventional launch into outer space and beaten Sputnik by 1 month and 9 days. NASA have never found it in orbit, but then it is small and dark and was not fired in an orbital trajectory, which requires a downrange velocity of around 17,000 miles an hour, 27,400 kilometers per hour, to maintain an orbit at an altitude of 150 miles, 242 kilometers. If an object achieves over 25,000 miles an hour, 40,320 kilometers per hour, it will completely escape Earth's gravity and fly off into space. Possessing around 5 times this velocity, if it survived its transit through the atmosphere, the manhole cover will probably now have left our solar system and be making its way into the deepest, darkest corners of the galaxy. I wonder if anyone wrote anything on it.
I think I know the answer. Because I just saw the picture of it.
Oh, yeah, which is not a mock-up, it's a real picture.
No, yeah,
there
I
it
know.
is. Yeah, actually flying through space. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a bit fuzzy because they had to use a very big telescope.
Yeah, but they did spot it, so that's good. Somewhere out there. That's funny.
Absolutely.
So they, pardon me? Oh, I know. I'm not showing on the screen because I need to turn my camera back on. There we go. Thanks.
Hi.
But you heard my voice, though. That's the important thing.
Absolutely.
That's a great story. I'd not heard of this. I guess it was just something that was recently revealed.
It appeared in an article about 2018, 2019, and there have been a few references to it, but I came across it completely by accident and thought, oh, what a great story. Did the Americans really beat the Russians to the Soviets to putting the first man-made object into outer space, and considerably better than a little puttering Sputnik that barely made a low Earth orbit. This thing went rocketing off.
Yeah, I don't think it made an orbit at all.
No, it didn't. Well, you never know. In a few billion years, it might have gone entirely around the universe and come back again.
I'm sure that's what happened. and they're looking at it going, "Fly Acme Airlines, what?"
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. How did you know that you were going to make a podcast using that logo back in 1957?
Yeah.
Let alone sneak onto a Nevada test site to engrave it on the manhole cover. Yeah, I thought that. No, it was a super story, and of course, I can understand why the astrophysicist Brownlee was so reluctant to tell him how fast this manhole cover, because it was going to open a complete can of worms, and any recollections people had about the tests he did. All going to go out the window. All people were interested in now was, oh, did we fire a manhole cover into outer space?
That's funny. And I recognized a voice, my good friend Greg Willits there.
Oh, yeah. Thanks again to Greg. Lovely to hear his dulcet tones again. And don't forget, if you ever need a fantastic and very professional voiceover artist, then please go to gregwillits.com.
There you go. All right. Okay, we have time to do some feedback, according to producer Liz.
Cool.
And I don't recall if we did. I think we did play the feedback bumper on the left. Okay. Okay. So, yes, ma'am. All right, Nick. Let's do some feedback. Let's do this one here from Martin Kemp. Hi, Jeff. First off, congratulations on your retirement and nearly 600 shows at the APG. Actually, more than that now. He sent this in a while back. As someone working in the commercial aviation industry, but not an actual ATP pilot, it's very insightful to hear your analysis and comments about the stories you read out. Of course, your personal experiences and the plane tales are always great to hear. Yeah, we just witnessed that just a few moments ago. Thanks also to the rest of the team, Captain Nick, Dr. Steph, Macho Nick, and Miami Rick. And who could forget the ringmaster, Liz? What amazing aviation careers you all have. Yeah, she's back there in the background. Just
Yeah, she's got a big whip.
Ow! Sorry. So anyway, he says, continuing with Martin's feedback, since joining ForeFlight, I have obtained my private and instrument ratings. Yay, that's awesome.
Well done.
And
Brilliant.
have now bought a Cherokee 6. Wow. So I appreciate the input on the general aviation side from Nick and Steph. So let's that deserves a big round of applause
brilliant.
from the APG crew.
What's the Cherokee 6 look like then, Jeff?
It's like it's a Piper Cherokee low wing 6-place single engine.
Oh, so like a Cherokee 5, but a little bigger?
Just one more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't think they have a Cherokee 5 actually. But yeah, I don't know. It's something to do with that. I'm not a Piper person, so I don't know. Anyway, aviation is such a welcoming community that was initially daunting to get involved with. I wish I'd known as a kid in England just how keen pilots are to talk about their experiences and to take folks up flying. It might not have taken me 40 years to get into the left seat of a Cessna. My parents were glider pilots before I was born, so I developed the interest through them, but I didn't know how to get into the industry. I now love being able to share my passion and knowledge with my son's scout troop to inspire future aviators. That's cool. Great job with that.
Absolutely.
And he said, thanks for all of you, for all that you do to share the passion. So he's thanking all of us. Thank you, Martin. Yeah, so again, he's involved with ForeFlight and other products, EFB products, and he sent me a nice personal note as well. So thank you, Martin. I'll be in touch with you regarding the part that I'm not reading out. So
excellent. You know, I've been across to our local scout hut and helped we have junior scouts called Beavers, and they have an aviation badge, and they've got to talk to a pilot to get their aviation badge. So I've done that a few times down there so that they can all proudly wear their badges.
all right. I was hoping I could find the nice beaver thing.
Yeah, I knew you were going there. I knew it.
Oh well, I'll put that in post.
Nice beaver.
Yeah, there you go. All right, number 4. This is from JJ Not Pittsburgh. Update. Congratulations, Jeff, on a career well accomplished. Thank you very much, sir. Make sure to let us know when the RV is making its way through Tulsa. I would love for you to be able to park it at my house, but I think it may be better suited for this very annoying and nosy neighbor of mine.
In
Okay.
fact, let him know by sending him a record. You could play him 24 hours from Tulsa, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Gene Pitney.
And he says, who knows? Maybe we can convert her to becoming an APG listener. Yeah, I just hope that if she does listen, that she doesn't hear this piece of feedback you sent. I'm currently building my flight time as a CFI. As I look at potential 121 carriers that I would be interested in flying for, I cannot help but notice the pilot shortage at Acme. It appears that you are losing captains, and the other crew members are generally late or just don't show up. Steph and Rick.
How
he's
careless,
talking about our
losing captains. What are they, all falling off their perches or something?
Yeah, well, I think he's talking about our crew, Acme here.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, once a captain, always a captain.
That's right. What are the perks if I decide to float my application to you? Well, no perks whatsoever. Yeah. In fact, it's more of a pain and a cost to you than anything like a perk.
I can vouch for that.
Cheers, Jeff and crew, and congratulations on completing 600 episodes. Thank you very much. Jordan, JJ not Pittsburgh in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Tulsa, holds a special...
I thought that was in Tulsa, okay.
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 I guess it could be that. JJ not Pittsburgh in Tulsa, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. He should have put a question mark there.
Yeah, he should.
But Tulsa holds a very special place in my heart because that's basically where I flew for the last time for Delta, was that trip, the overnight trip that I did there. And got up.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah. My first trip for Delta, Liz is asking me if I remembered what that was. Would that be like, well, it doesn't matter because I can't remember my IOE. I can't remember where I went on my first trip. I have no idea. No clue whatsoever. Somewhere in the United States. Pretty sure. And I think I would be leaving from Atlanta, going somewhere, and then eventually at the end of the
then
trip
coming back again.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm so glad we asked.
Okay. Oh shoot, I'm getting some weird audio stuff going on again, and this time it's on my Mac Mini, so I don't know what's happening here. I know I have good internet, or I think I do.
You're sounding, you sound fine to us, Jeff.
Yeah, it's just the coming in, the download for some reason is getting, I don't know if it's the bandwidth or if it's something that my computer is doing. Let me just quickly check something to make sure that, yeah, I'm on Ethernet, and I'm sure it's like 200 and something down. I wonder if something is downloading something. I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah, it's just irritating that this is happening. It shouldn't be happening. Okay, well, as long as you guys hear me okay, I guess. Okay. So it looks
I'm
like
just looking to see where my first trip was to.
Oh, I think, I did in the early days, in the first several years of my career at Delta, I printed out the rotations and the time, what call those things? Time sheets, pay sheet? No, can't remember exactly what we called them. But anyway, I printed these things out and kept them in little binders. And I think I still have 1989, which would be the first year of flying for Delta, my first trip. So I have a way to figure that out. I just don't know what. Maybe I'll go search for that. A retirement task, yeah. Maybe
there you go.
It's probably
9th of July, 1994, with Roger Page, Heathrow to JFK.
There you go.
Yeah, I love it. I loved it so much, I did it another 5 times.
Okay, let's do some audio feedback from. You may have heard of this dude, Pilot Pip. He does a podcast, Plane Safety, and let's see what.
Yeah, renowned for its audio quality.
Well, actually, I did something to clean it up a bit, so I don't think it's too
Oh,
bad. Let's see.
okay.
Let's check it out. Oh, I can't do anything about that.
Hi, gang. Happy New Year. Pip here with a question. Czech Airmen is the subject of my question. Now, over here, we call them, or at least I think the equivalent that we call them is line training captains. Now, in my head, line and training captains and Czech Airmen have always been the same thing, different name for the same thing. But I'm not so sure if that's true. So let me ask you, what is your understanding of the function and role of a Czech airman in U.S. airlines? How do you become one? What are the qualifications? What primarily do they do? Did you ever think about becoming one, Jeff, and or Rick if he's on the show? For our part over here, line training captains are their primary role, I suppose, is for training and checking of new pilots. So either new hires to the company or perhaps new pilots coming onto the fleet, having transferred from a different fleet. So they'll fly with new guys. Typically, for a new hire in our company, they'll fly 40 sectors or 100 hours, and all of that will be with a line training captain who will teach them the ropes of how we operate the aircraft, the ins and outs of the company itself, passenger interaction, all that kind of jazz, and that will then culminate in a line check, a two-sector line check, which I think is probably pretty standard all over the world. Also, a line training captain will administer the annual line check, which every pilot receives. On top of that, at least in my airline, the line training captain may also find themselves doing assessments in the sim. Maybe if someone has failed a line check or needs a bit of extra training, they might find themselves in the simulator helping out in that capacity. And they also support generally the chief pilot team in identifying trends, coming up with suggestions for new SOPs, although actually that falls more under the job description of standards captains, which is another thing altogether. I don't know if you have an equivalent. Do you have standards captains in U.S. airlines? Anyway, that's my question. What I've described there, is that the same thing that a Czech airman does in the U.S.? All right, take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Pip. Basically, yeah, and I don't think it's like the same at every airline here in the U.S. I can only speak for my company or my former company, Delta, and line check airmen or check airmen. We've kind of used those interchangeably. We're line pilots that volunteered to do the duties of a line check airman. And then they go through an interview process, and usually they know, they're maybe friends with. I mean, this is not always the case, but they probably know somebody in the line check airman ranks. And the reason why I never volunteered to do it is that I just wanted to fly the line, and I wanted to fly my trips, and then during my time off, I wanted to do all the things I wanted to do with my family and hobbies and that kind of thing. Whereas if you are a line check airman, I mean, you were much busier. You were doing the trips with new people, as you mentioned, flying initial operating experiences with people that are new to the fleet. They also give check rides. For us at Delta, it was every 2 years we had to have a line check, not every year. And they do a lot of the extra things, like if an airplane needed a special functional check flight, then they were qualified to do the functional check flight profiles, that sort of thing. So there was a lot of extra flying that they did. Now they did get compensated for that. There's an override, I believe, hourly override. So in addition to their regular hourly rate, they get paid more. But they worked. I mean, they made their money because they worked pretty hard, or they work pretty hard. And that just sounded like too much work for me. So I didn't volunteer to put my hat in the ring or whatever the. Yeah, I wanted. I'd rather do a podcast. That takes all my time.
Yeah, for no money.
For nothing. Um, but yeah, so that's the reason why I never wanted to do that job. And God bless them; they're really good people that really work hard. But yeah, that never interested me at all. Now the pilots that are line pilots that also are simulator instructor pilots. There is a certain percentage of our sim instructors that are line pilots, and then the other uh, percentage, which is probably a greater percentage, I'm thinking, are non-seniority list pilots. Many retired pilots that come in and instruct in the simulator, and but the line pilots that we have, the seniority list instructors that we have in the simulator system, are not the same thing as check airmen or line check airmen. So that's like a separate. Those are two separate categories, and so and they weren't interchangeable. You couldn't bring in a simulator instructor pilot to do an initial operating experience with somebody or do a line check. It was a completely different structure. And same thing with the line check airmen. They couldn't go into the simulator complex and be simulator instructors. It's completely separate. Was that all the questions you had regarding that? Yeah. So, and again, I think that's not necessarily the same at all the like United and American, all the other airlines. I think that they can do dual roles in some of these other major airlines that we have, or just major carriers here in the U.S., where you can both do simulator instruction and line flying instruction as well. I could be wrong. I don't know. So that's as best as I can explain it to you as far as what happens over here in the U.S., at least at Delta. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Tim Van Ram says he seems to recall that my first trip was at Kill Devil Hills. Ah, that is so. Oh, Liz says he's right. Yeah, that's so funny. Let's see if I can play something in here that might be. Yeah. Nick, is there anyone that you want to?
No. You go ahead. We could do a bit more of Pips, or because he's got another one there, doesn't he?
No, those are just different versions that I had to use to clean up. So,
how about the next one, Sam Dawson's?
Okay. Let's do 7. Okay, this is from Sam. The recent debonair crash involving the Tennessee Fly Girl drew a great deal of criticism of the pilot. It's early in the investigation, but my gut feeling is that there was an issue with instruction, and I think even now, before the NTSB is finished, there are some lessons to be learned. Number one, up until recently, most GA airplanes were all similar. They all had the standard six-pack, and avionics was pretty much the same thing. I didn't see an autopilot for the first 10 years of flying. Airplane checkouts were pretty straightforward, with the instructor maybe having to show the student how retractable landing gear and a constant speed propeller worked, maybe even a turbocharger. Now, with the advancement of avionics and instruments, the cockpits of many GA airplanes are now often more complex than those of airliners. I've flown GA autopilots that were more sophisticated than the one in my ancient Boeing. Airlines don't just throw pilots into the seats of new airplanes. Captain Jeff and I have tens of thousands of hours, yet we are both Boeing pilots. Put us in an Airbus with no training, and we would be loster than an Easter egg.
Very good.
We go through, or went through in Jeff's case, extensive training before we even stepped into the full motion simulator, much less the actual airplane. Unfortunately, the training of GA airplanes has often not kept up with the technology. Instructors often throw students into the airplanes right away and try to teach them how the systems work. I think GA instructors could learn lessons from airlines and places like flight safety that do type ratings. And then he gives us an alert.
Nerd alert!
It's a training nerd alert. I've gotten several type ratings, and the steps generally follow the rote understanding, application, and correlation levels of learning. I guess that's some kind of a acronym, isn't it? RUAC. Rote, understanding, application, and correlation levels of learning, though we call it something else in the airlines. In the airlines, these phrases are systems, rote understanding of the airplane systems to include GPS and autopilot. This is not delving into the trivia. No one cares how many rivets are in the tail boom, but the pilot should start to know the systems, limitations, and emergency procedures. This stage is completed with a written and/or oral examination. Procedures, develop understanding. Ideally, use a ground-based procedure trainer, computer-based trainer, or hook up ground power to the airplane and learn how the different systems actually work. This should not be done while the airplane is flying, as that is a horrible classroom and is completed after a hands-on test of the different systems. Movement validation or application learning level of learning. In this stage, the pilot should know the airplane. Well, let's see. The pilot should the airplane using the systems. What is it I'm missing there? In this stage, at this stage, the pilot should know how to use the systems, but also hand fly. For example, if instrument rated, be able to shoot an approach using the autopilot, hand flying using the flight director, and hand flying using raw data. Even a VFR pilot should know how to turn the autopilot on and off and how to use its basic functions, such as climbing, descending, and turning. Hand flying should include steep turns, slow flight, stalls, and different landings. Well, I have a lot of different landings in my logbook. While these are things that should be tested in the procedure stage, now the pilot does it for real in the airplane. This phase should be completed with a flight review and/or instrument proficiency check to the standards of their certificate level. Line-oriented flight training or correlation stage. Do a few cross countries where the pilot puts it all together. Perhaps give them some scenarios such as simulated electrical failure leading to a diversion. Teaching this way involves a good deal of footwork and preparation by the instructor as well as the student. It may also require an instructor seeking additional training. Much of the training will not involve flying, but ground-based training. I encourage any listeners going through aircraft type training to seek out instructors who generally use this process, and for instructors who do this type of training to do their homework. Also, give yourself time to learn about the airplane and how the systems are integrated and to do this training. Sorry for the long rant. Keep the sunny side up, Sam. No, I love Sam. He is very passionate about flight training, which is awesome, which is great. And that's an area, general aviation training is an area that definitely could use some improvement here in the U.S. and probably around the world. So he kind of pointed out some of the differences between how the airlines do it and the military do it and how general aviation does it in general. No pun intended. But Tim W. in our chat says, my Part 135 type rating experience was not positive at all. Learned a lot from it, though. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
how not to do it.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's, negative learning is an effective learning method too, but not my preferred method. I prefer positive environments and experiences. But what do you think, Captain Nick?
I think Sam's hit the nail on the head. Part of the problem, I feel in my gut, although I haven't got a lot to support this, is that because flight instruction is a very well-trodden path for a very new and inexperienced pilots to gain hours, by the mere fact that they are just, they're very early on in their flying careers. They don't have a wealth of experience that they're going to achieve, years later. They're not always the best people to do the job. And it's very easy to come across someone who doesn't really have their heart in the job and is really just ticking boxes, waiting for the 1,500 hours so they can go and join the airlines. That's their ultimate aim. They haven't really committed themselves to a career as a flight instructor. I think you will find good flight instructors out there and people who are conscientious about their job, but it's not like they've chosen that career path. That career path has almost been forced upon them because of the need to generate hours before they can get the licenses they want. And that does not always breed the best type of instructor, the most conscientious instructor, the most knowledgeable instructor. So I think if you are going to learn to fly, it's incumbent on you to be careful how you pick someone to teach you and make sure that you have got the best of the bunch, as it were.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, the instructors out there that are doing this as their end goal, is this is what they want to do, for their career, that's awesome. I mean, I wish there were more of them out there, but as you mentioned, most, I would say, of the instructors out there in the general aviation world are just there to just a stepping stone to build hours and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, if they've got that kind of professional attitude towards their job that we hope all pilots have, but sadly, the more of these accident stories and incidents we read about, the more we realize that people aren't always motivated in the correct way. If they are motivated to be as professional a pilot as they can, they will probably make great instructors. But it's the percentage that aren't following their hearts that are the ones that worry you.
Well, Nigel's asking, who's training the GA trainers? Well, the ones that had just gone through the training and are now moving on to the airlines. I was thinking about it when you were talking about this, Nick, that my personal flight training was, my instructor was a guy who had just gone through undergraduate pilot training in the U.S. Air Force. And he had just gotten his wings, went to pilot instructor training for 3 months, came back, and I was one of his first students. And he was just there to do his next 3 years and then get another assignment. And so in a way, it's kind of the same type of a system as many instructors in the GA world are living in and operating in. And it would be easy, I guess, for my military instructor pilot to kind of have a bad attitude and not do a very good job, but that was not the case at all. Now, in a way, you have to realize that these young we call them FAPEs, first assignment instructor pilots, are working hard, not only because they're probably just good people and they would do it regardless, but also because they know that they're still working toward their next assignment, especially the ones that wanted to go and fly fighters and that kind of thing. They were doing everything they possibly could to kind of shine a positive light on them, so that their what do you call those
Assessments?
things? Assessments, yeah. I forgot what we call those things. And I'm getting old.
What do you mean getting?
Yeah. Hey. What do we call it? OERs, Officer Evaluation Reports, or I guess they call them something else now. But anyway, it's the same thing. So we get every year you get an evaluation report, and they were doing everything they can possibly do to make themselves look just like the best pilot ever in the entire world. And
In other words, doing as good a job as they could.
Exactly. So there was some. Okay, Eva says, in defense of younger hour building type flight instructors, my last two instructors have since left for the airlines have been fantastic, extremely knowledgeable and diligent. That's good to hear. And I think that you would agree. We agree, Eva, that most of them are doing a great job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just that there's going to be the odd one that is not going to put their heart and soul into it, and as a result, we talked about the instructor that this lady had, he may not have done the best job for her, and as a result, she lost her life. So it's a worry.
Yeah, a big worry.
Yeah, exactly.
A Super Fred Driver says, Jeff, the hardest job of being a FAPE, and Super Fred Driver was a FAPE, first assignment instructor pilot in the Air Force, was always competing. We would have loved to focus purely on the student, but we were competitive based off what we did outside the jet. Yeah, so in addition to what you were doing as an instructor pilot, yeah, it's a competitive world, and a lot of times competition breeds excellence. So that's good to hear different kind of opinions regarding all of this. And Sam, it was very nice that you took the time to send us that very in-depth analysis of where you think the GA training world should be going and what they should be doing. And it sounds like there are many out there that are doing that, and that's good to hear. All right, let's just do one more, and then we're going to wrap it up. This is from Tim Qualls. He said, "Hi, crew. First, just wanted to say how impressive it is that Captain Jeff had so much forethought when beginning APG. I'm sure it isn't just a coincidence that his retirement fell in line with the 600th show." It is, actually. The planning when starting the podcast must have been amazing to have seen. Yeah, I was plotting it all out.
Very impressive, wasn't it?
Let's see those guys from the Best Aviation Podcast pull that off. Well, they probably will, actually. Yeah, when I started, I had no idea that I would do more than 10 or 15 of these things. Anyway, yeah, I'll get it. Well, I'm still trying to perfect. Practice makes perfect, they say. In all seriousness, congratulations on your retirement and the 600th show. Both are great accomplishments, and it's an honor to have gotten to know you and the crew. Since you and Captain Nick are retired and most likely finished flying for good, it got me to wondering, what would be your most memorable flight from your careers, the one that stands out the most to you? And even though the rest of the crew hasn't reached retirement yet, be interesting to know theirs as well up to this point. Well, we're not going to be able to hear from anybody else regarding that question you have, Tim, but you have two of us here, two retired old geezers. So again, that was Tim Qualls. Nick, what's your most memorable flight?
That's a bit of a tough one because, I think about my last approach into Kai Tak, flying around the checkerboard, putting it down, getting airborne after our 48-hour layover, and within a couple of days, the airport was closed and no one was ever going to do it again. But really and honestly, I think the most memorable was one of the most horrible.
Well, I mean, it can be a negative memory.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it sticks in my brain. And I was flying out of Machrihanish it wasn't Machrihanish, it was Benbecula on the Western Isles to bring an F3 back to our base. And we'd attended a formal dining in night, but lots of booze. And very early the next morning, we were woken up and told we needed the jet back as soon as possible. So we clambered into this thing still pretty hungover and probably still reeking of booze. And of course, we had to beat up the airfield because that was a requirement. Going over this airfield in the Tornado with the wings all the way back, steaming along, pulled up into the vertical. And the Tornado wasn't a great performer. Was kind of hoping that we would reach the cloud before we ran out of airspeed because the cloud's about 10,000 feet. Anyway, we popped into this cloud and I relaxed and thought, oh, Lord, we've made it look as impressive as we can. By the way, I've been doing twizzles on the way, aileron rolls on the way up, so I wasn't sure which way was up, but it didn't really matter because when you're just pointing vertically upwards, you just pull because, all horizons are equally close. Anyway, I reached in and thought I put the wings forward because they were all the way back in 67, so we'd have some lift. Banged them all the way forward started pulling for the horizon on instruments, of course. And the next thing I know, the angle of attack booper went off and we departed into an incipient spin. and the airplane flicked a couple of times, and I went, "Oh my God!" and centralized the controls. And the navigator in the back was shouting, "What the hell are you doing?" It was the bear was in the back seat, and I suddenly realized I hadn't moved the wings. I'd reached out and done something, but I hadn't moved the wings. So I grabbed the lever and banged the wings all the way forward, and the wings started chuntering, and eventually we sort of unstalled the wings. I'd unloaded, we unstalled the wings. But as the wings came forward, I realized what I had moved the first time. What I'd done was put the flaps out, and stupid me. And as the wings came forward, the interlocks were released, and now the flap started to extend. Except, of course, we were well above the flap extension speed at that point. So, Rut-row. All these clangers and things went off, the airplane going, "Oh my God, you've oversped the flaps." So, I sorted it out and got the flaps in, leveled off, and went, "Oh God," I had to do a low-speed handling check and snag the airplane on arrival. So it was far from a perfect flight, but one I definitely remember.
And you lived through it.
I did indeed. That was the important bit.
Yeah. And it didn't kill your backseater at the same time.
I didn't kill the bear, no.
Yeah. How about me? Gosh, I mean, there are so many amazing experiences I had, both in the Air Force and the airlines. And, as Nick is mentioning, sometimes the ones that stick out most in your mind are the ones that things went wrong, like terribly wrong, and wasn't a pleasant memory. And I guess the one that was most unpleasant for me was the little incident that I had, the little misunderstanding I had with air traffic control up around the nation's capital here in the U.S., Washington, D.C., in a prohibited area, actually.
Ruh-roh.
That I allegedly had gone into. Turns out that I was exonerated from that, but that was not a lot of fun, that couple of weeks. Vacation, not vacation. But anyway, and then, a couple of emergencies in my time, like the engine failure during the middle of a spin recovery.
Oh, nice one.
And a couple of other, I almost commanded, I never did bail out of an airplane, but I almost commanded to bail out when I was an instructor pilot, and it's a long story, but anyway, fortunately I didn't command to bail out when I realized that all these warnings and systems that were going off and blaring were all associated with an electrical fault, and none of these things were actually happening, and the airplane was still pretty much good airplane, so we flew it back to the base. Anyway, so many different things, so many beautiful things I've seen, so many beautiful sunsets and sunrises and city lights in the middle of the night and the starry skies. I mean, flying out west in the U.S. and in the middle of the night and looking up and just realizing, how really insignificant we are when you look at all the just, millions and millions or billions of stars in the sky. It's just so much that I have memories of, and I can't just narrow it down to one memorable flight, unfortunately. So thank you for asking the question, though, Tim. I do appreciate it. And, honestly, the best part of, and I say this time and time again here on the show, best part of doing this whole podcasting thing that I never knew would turn into this is the community that has been built around it, and knowing all of you and meeting you and hearing from you and getting together every week, and these wonderful people that are in our live chat room. It's just an amazing thing that I just never get tired of. So I may be retired from the airlines, but I'm not retired from doing this podcast. So anyway, that's about all we have.
You
to
said
say
wonderful
about that.
people. Why is Nige gone?
Oh well, because I was waiting for him to leave. And then I could be honest about the wonderful people in the chat room. No,
He must have gone. Okay.
Well, I don't know if he's there or not. Yeah, he must have. Anyway, so that's going to wrap it up for part 2, and we're going to do our standard wrap up, which is point you to our website, airlinepilotguy.com. Thank you for those who have reached out to me regarding the HTTPS thing. I'll be in touch regarding that. Also, Nick, would you like to tell us about the social medias that we're...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We are still a presence on Facebook, so if you are interested in finding our page there, search for Airline Pilot Guy, all one word. And on X, which used to be Twitter, we're at APG Crew. And on the Instas, where I will post all the artwork, that sort of thing, APG Crew.
And
on YouTube, you can find us at youtube.com/Airline Pilot Guy, all one word.
There you go. That's what we use as our platform to record these shows, and you can see what we look like, and you may not want to, but yeah, face for radio, they say. And yeah, check it out. It's like the sausage being made, and you can be part of this wonderful.
You keep your
live
sausage
audience.
out of it.
Well, yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, that's the APG After Dark. It's a separate channel where we do charge. Anybody in my bathroom? I don't know. Why would you say that, Liz?
Well, someone's got to looking after the water feature.
Oh yeah, that's what it sounded like actually. Hey, hello, can you tell us about Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
That's okay. I am too here in the kitchen. So he's going to go ahead and tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and plain tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks a lot, Hillel.
Sorry, Jeff, I might have used all your skin lotion.
Oh no, it's so dry and cold. Well, I need that lotion.
You might want to tell him to mop up while he's in there.
Yeah, there's all kinds of issues involved with this whole Hillel and Slack thing, but I love him, and everybody else loves him as well. So thanks, Hillel, for doing this for us. And let's see. I guess that's going to do it. And we're going to go ahead and wish everybody a great weekend. Oh, before we do that, we need to thank you for popping into the video there, Liz. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you do behind
Liz.
the scenes.
Good
My
job.
pleasure.
Keeping us on track as much as you possibly
Do my
can.
best.
Yeah. And anyway, we love you. We love everybody in the chat room. We love everybody that's listening to our show right now. So with that, we're going to wish you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Bye, everybody.
See you next time.
I was waiting for some more people to say goodbye, but
That's it.
Apparently not.
Turn off your recorder, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
So, do you want to hear about my best flight ever?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was a couple of years ago on a Mad Dog from Toronto to Atlanta. And there was this pilot, and he made the most fantastic PAs. And then we landed in Atlanta, and he taxied so fast. I thought I was going to be airsick on the ground. It was just so memorable. It was
Was it a
really,
Southwest flight?
Yeah.
Love it.
Was that the one where I had to really nail the brakes because somebody cut in front of me going into one of the ramps?
Yeah, I mean, you were going fast, and then we were going stop,
Yeah.
and then like
That
whoa.
was embarrassing. But I was motoring in as I do, and then some tug decided to cut across the roadway.
Well, that's your excuse anyway.
No, that's.
And then we went over to
legit.
Mike Carroll's, and we had a nice get together with Mike, and your first officer came along. You remember
Yeah.
that? That was fun.
I do remember that.
That was fun.
That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks for spending some of your Saturday with us.
Oh, any
Yeah.
suggestions for
Oh,
show
from
titles?
today. Well, I had a couple from Monday. Let's see if or Tuesday, whenever the hell I did that.
Whenever the hell that was.
Mm.
That was way back on Tuesday. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get back on a regular schedule. Here
Those
soon.
that can't do teach. That was from our Sam. If you can't do teach or something, if you can't.
Not sure I like that one, Sam. Because I was a instructor pilot too.
Well.
So was I.
Yeah, we were all.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, so
like that's.
What are you trying to say? Nix that one.
I don't know, nothing else. I don't think.
What were some of the one?
Blew the doors
You
off.
had a couple.
Yeah, blew the doors off. That was one. Yes, it blew our doors off. That was one. But I had the one from part one was teeter twatter.
Oh, teeter twatter. Yeah,
What the hell was that?
Well, this was
about?
from this. I'll show you the picture. This was from this picture.
The Air Tindy twin otter that.
That was teetering on the edge of the hill. Remember we carried.
Oh, okay.
It was teetering on the twatter was teetering on the hill.
They landed in
teeter twatter.
whiteout conditions and yeah.
And then the other one from
We've
part
had
one.
a few twatters lately, but
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
And the other one was we were talking on the other one. Steph was commenting on we had a news item about a doctor who had been indulging in both the lounge and on the plane, and then there was a medical emergency, and he chose not to come forward. And the woman who's sitting next to him was shocked that he didn't come forward, and there was some comment about how did she know he was a doctor, and then everybody said, well, yeah, no, they said, well, if he was a pilot, everyone would have known because he would have told them. And then Steph said, well, doctors are kind of like that too. So we said, I'm a doctor and a pilot. Like, they're going to tell them, everybody that you're that.
And a vegan.
And a vegan and a CrossFitter and an Ironman and a...
What's a CrossFitter?
Oh, they do this special kind
CrossFit
of
training.
fitness,
CrossFit training. Okay,
yeah.
I thought it had something to do with, genders and sex.
And the other one was, and this one is I don't think it's Magnus. We did a feedback from Magnus, and Jeff was trying to remember where he was from, and it was like Sweden, Switzerland, Swaziland. Where's he from?
I'm pretty sure it was Sweden. Sorry, Magnus.
Yeah.
Remember, Nick, he came over, he flew over from Sweden for that UK
Oh, absolutely,
yeah. Gave us that gin, that Swedish gin.
Yeah.
Swiss gin.
That was
No, Swedish.
very, very nice.
Yeah.
That's
he's a
been
great
drunk
guy.
now.
And he gave us, you weren't there for the coffee fund, the part one, gave us a very nice contribution in honor of my retirement and 600 shows and all that kind of stuff. So,
Everyone's glad you're not flying. They're going to contribute to it. Like,
I know they're
thank
going,
God.
oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah, the skies are safe again.
Yeah. I can book with Delta now. Woo.
So you're only supposed to blow the doors off. Isn't there a quote from the Italian Job, the movie?
I never saw it.
Oh,
with all the little minis.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep. They end up with their loot in a bus or something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Interesting. I could see how that one.
Or it might have been. Sundance. The Sundance Kid.
I like it
Cassidy and
too,
the Sundance
Eva.
Kid.
Eva votes for Teeter Twatter. She thinks that's a good one. But
Teeter
anyway.
Twatter.
Yeah, we've just done a few twatters lately.
I know.
that's,
I know.
I haven't done any twatters in a while.
I
Well,
got a
they-
Lego
they-
twatter into
they
the
were
new
landing in
intro
a
slide.
They were landing in a whiteout. I don't know if you could just do a white screen and say, and the title could be whiteout. That would be really easy for you.
If I was a lazy, horrible person, yes, I would.
Oh, yeah.
And your point?
We're trying to just
your
make
point
it
is?
make it nice and easy for you there, Nick. Anyway.
I suppose I could do a sort of a kid's merry-go-round, like where they sit on all the little toy cars and things, and make one of them a twatter and the kid's falling off because it's teetering.
Oh, Nigel's got one here, but I think that's a little racy here.
We gotta go down.
I'm not sure. I don't get it, but I thought maybe you guys.
Flight instructors
quote.
Is that what that is, Nige?
Yeah, flight instructor.
Oh,
I think.
Oh, that was one of the things that the first officer in that first news item.
Oh yes, The
said,
first
"We gotta
officer
go
when
down."
when she was trying to declare the emergency.
I thought the same thing, Nigel. In
Yeah.
fact, you probably heard me giggle a little bit
Yeah.
when she said that.
Oh yeah, so I can use rude names now, with
No.
lots of innuendo.
Steph will
Like,
say no.
No, let's don't use Nigel's name.
Do you think you got anything there to work with, Nick?
No.
No. All right,
Look at
then
him.
you're on your own.
Does it look like he has anything to work with?
Got the question mark over his head.
Oh my!
Could we do something about
Take your
them?
pill, Nick.
About them
Take your pill.
dismantling the plane in the field? Something about I don't know.
Well, if you don't know, no one does.
I don't know. Airbus to tractor or something. I don't know. Airbus to. I don't know. Anyway.
No. We'll
All right. Well,
he'll come up with
let's
something brilliant.
end the stream and we can chitty chat a little bit and then.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, everybody in the chat, even you, Nigel. I guess you didn't. You hadn't left.
No, he hasn't. No. It's just
Well, hopefully
nuts.
Jeff's apartment will get fixed and we won't have all these changes and delays again. So that'll be good.
And Nigel says, "You need bigger nuts."
Yeah.
Bye bye, Nigel. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, everybody.
Hasn't anyone got a spanner? Can't they just ban him?